Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and it's time for part 2 of the Q&A. So let me get my hat on, and let's knock this out. Alright, first question. Hey Jason, what methods can you use to overcome plateaus on body weight exercises? I appear to be plateauing on push-ups. I have been doing 3 to 6 sets of push-ups per day, but I have been getting stuck at the same number of reps on each set for a period of weeks. I've been trying different things to push to overcome plateaus, such as wearing a backpack while I do push-ups or going to failure, then doing knee push-ups. However, I cannot seem to break these plateaus. Any help is much appreciated. Thanks. Alright, you've got to remember, a push-up is like anything else. It's a resistance exercise. It's not that different from weightlifting, and you need to adapt accordingly. Now, that being said, contrary to what the bodybuilding world will tell you, training past failure isn't going to make you stronger. To get stronger, you need to increase your strength stamina or your work capacity. Now, you can do that through getting even stronger at maximum strength, along with training the endurance. You're going to have to learn to periodize things a bit, but this doing push-ups to failure, that's not going to help you, because if you do push-ups to failure, or you go to failure and then you push beyond like you're doing knee push-ups with a lighter weight, in what world is doing push-ups with an even lighter weight on already a strength endurance exercise going to help you? You're changing the range of motion, you're changing the angles, everything. That's not helping you. In fact, it's impeding your recovery, meaning you're going to get stronger, weaker. So what I'm going to recommend, number one, you focus on your actual real strength in those muscles. How do you get real strength? Forget the weighted push-ups. Weighted push-ups are hard on your wrists. What you need to do is build those muscles doing something like weighted dips. Get over and get as strong as possible in the 5 to 8 rep range on your weighted dips. Come in and do those up to 3 times a week. Standard type of training you would do for any strength training. You can periodize it, you can do whatever you want with it. Get stronger on the weighted dip. Beyond that, I'm going to recommend that you go over and you do greasing the groove, which means you take your max number of push-ups, which I'm going to assume, let's say it's 20 right now. That's an arbitrary number. I don't know if it's 40, 50, whatever it is for you, but let's say it's 20. I want you to come in every day, spread out through the day, at least an hour apart, and I want you to do 10 push-ups at least 3 times every single day, while additionally working on those weighted dips at least twice a week. Again, you can consider the weighted dips up to 3 times a week, but again, do not take anything to failure. Taking stuff to failure is a tool you use for metabolic fatigue, purely for hypertrophy purposes. I'm not going to recommend you do it this way because it's going to slow down how frequently you can train. You get better at doing high rep push-ups by doing high rep push-ups. If you're taking them to failure, you're too weak to do them again too soon. Therefore, you're doing less of them. You get good by doing them all the time and having your body get used to doing high rep push-ups without being fatigued. So if you can do 20 now, come in and do 10, and then once a month, test your max. Once every month, do as many as you can, one time to failure on a day to where you're fully rested. And you're probably going to need to take tomorrow off after you test them. So you come in and do that as your only chest or tricep exercise of the day. Take them to failure. If you get to 30, great. You've increased it. Now you know that your baseline is 50% of that. You need to be doing sets of 15 every time you come in. But if you focus on getting the muscles as big and as strong as possible through the weighted dips, which is a more difficult exercise, it uses all the same muscles, and then you focus upon almost a greasing the groove type method, which is what I described on the push-ups, which is, again, Pavel Tausalin wrote for people getting strong on chin-ups and pull-ups. You will get a lot better at them. But this stuff to failure, going beyond failure, that is not going to get you what you want. That's going to make you worse at it. That's going to give you the slowest progress possible. It's just not going to help you what you're trying to do. To get good at them, you need to practice doing lots and lots of push-ups all the time, so that your body is just used to them. That's how you increase strength stamina, not by taking stuff to failure, if you're trying to get there more quickly. All right, next question. Hey Jason, you made a video a year or so ago saying that the maximum amount of natural muscle a male can put on with good genetics is 30 pounds. With that in mind, what do you think the figure would be for a natural female? Thanks. All right. Good question. What people need to remember, that 30 pounds of muscle means 30 pounds of muscle once you're mature. If you're still getting taller, which means you're under 21 as a male or under 18 for a female, you are gaining weight that is not muscle weight. It's called bone and organs. And your muscle, you're going to gain muscle without training. We're talking about training induced. So obviously an 18-year-old could put on more than 30 pounds of lean mass by the time he's 28 than he could if he had started at 21, because he's going to have more lean mass at 21 even without lifting. So there's our caveat. You need to understand that. For a female, or for males, it's about 20 to 30 pounds though, total. 20 being for smaller frame males without maybe the best genetics. Smaller frame males that don't have ultra high testosterone levels and stuff like that. 30 pounds of muscle for bigger guys who might even have higher hormone levels and stuff. That's what we're looking for, frame size and hormones. Frame size being far more important than testosterone levels though. Your testosterone levels are only going to influence you a pound or two of muscle in your lifetime at the most in the normal range. It's not massive difference. Now, for females, it's going to be maybe 2/3 of that. So on average, a female, it's going to be down closer to 15 to 20 at the most. Again, females have smaller frames, less hormones than males. Now, their leg development can be just as solid pound for pound as a male, but their upper body is going to be less. So that's going to bring their total figure down a little bit. But what people need to remember, what I say over and over, just because you look leaner doesn't mean that you gained only muscle. So that throws people's figures off a little bit. You'll get a guy who's like, no. I weighed 150 when I started training at 22, and 7 years later, I weigh 182, and I think I look leaner. Therefore, I gained more than 32 pounds of muscle. But the reality is they might have gained 4 pounds of fat, but because their muscles got so much bigger, they look slightly more defined, even though they have a little more body fat. So their 32 pounds of muscle turns into 28 pounds of muscle and 4 pounds of fat. But when you gain 28 pounds of muscle, if you only gain a little fat with that, you look leaner. You look leaner as a result of it. And if you understand the way fat gets spread over the much larger muscle tissue, and the fact that some of that fat was inside their muscle tissue. There's intramuscular fat also, which can make a muscle look a little bigger. So you've got to consider the way the fat gets displaced and moved around their body a little bit. They can actually look leaner. You can look leaner with a small amount of fat gain if you gained large amounts of muscle. So just factor that in even for the females with the same thing, because they might have gained a little fat. But they're still going to look leaner as a result of it, because that's just what muscle does to you. So somewhere in the 15 to 20 pound range for females. All right, next question. If someone were to progress in a given exercise by adding 1 rep more than the last time, would it matter if the rep was added to the first or the last set? For example, if the scheme would be 3 by 8, would it matter if the first set consisted of 9 reps, or would pushing for progression be wiser on the last set? Thank you. All right, here's the interesting thing. When you're doing multiple sets, it's all about metabolic fatigue. When you're doing sets of 8, 3 sets of 8, for example, you're definitely chasing metabolic fatigue more than mechanical tension as the pathway through which you're growing. All right. It's not about what's wiser, it's about what's going to give the most results. But here's the thing. You can actually place that rep in a different spot to make progression different. It's easier to put it in the first set, right? Because you're fresh. Most people can do more reps on their first set than their third set, given a choice. If you come in and you do one on the first set, it is easier. But if you do one on the last set, it's more fatiguing, because you've already built up the metabolites from the previous workload. You've accumulated fatigue, and then it's actually more difficult to add it to the third set. So in theory, the third set would have more growth potential. But you know what? We're really talking tit for tat here. When we start talking about where to place something like an extra rep on a 3 by 8, of even doing something like picking where to put it optimally for some sort of growth, you're a very advanced lifter to really need to nitpick that much. You know what? An intermediate lifter just puts it anywhere that he can. All right? A novice lifter should be progressing all the time, but an intermediate would just pick one and go with it. Wherever he gets that rep is where he gets that rep. That's progress. An advanced lifter is someone who actually has to plan their progression. And an advanced lifter, your goal would be to try to get that one on the first set, and eventually get strong enough and progress enough to where you can add it to the last set. And then maybe come in and eventually do 3 sets of 9 with the same weight. But you would plan something like that over the course of 3 or 6 weeks as an advanced lifter, of where to put that rep. And that's the difference of understanding between an intermediate and an advanced lifter. And always remember, with your question, to simplify it, putting the rep on the first set would be the easiest, but putting it on the last set would give the most growth. But in your goal for progression, depending on how advanced you are, sometimes you have to do the easier progression in order to get to the more difficult progression. That's the reason advanced lifters benefit from periodization so much more, because they legitimately need to really plan this little tiny minutia out. Getting a rep or adding 5 pounds to a bar for an advanced lifter is a big deal. It's not easy to do like it was years ago. It requires some planning. It requires work. So that's the way to look at it. But honestly, that we went way overboard into that. That's overthinking it a bit. Putting it anywhere is still progressive overload. It only becomes important probably where you throw to put it for a more advanced lifter who's going to struggle for every last inch of progression that they get. That's just the nature of being an advanced lifter. All right, next question. Given the risk involved with overweight surgery like gastric bypass and the risk involved with the use of DNP, which one would you prefer if you hypothetically felt that you had to choose one or the other to succeed with weight loss? Damn. All right, so in order to succeed with weight loss, we're talking about pretty much you're going to die. For the morbidly obese, this one's a non-issue. Anyone know the death rate for DNP? The risk involved with DNP for decently lean individuals who choose to use DNP to get leaner. All right, the people who are usually using DNP don't have the option of gastric bypass surgery, because they want you to be morbidly obese to even qualify for the surgery. People using DNP are usually decently lean people, or just with a little bit of extra fluff, who choose to get lean, to get really, really lean usually. 1% of people who use DNP for fat loss die. 1% who don't die do suffer organ damage or potential brain damage from it. So that's basically a 1 in 50 chance of using DNP that you're completely fucked. Now, people who are morbidly obese are going to dramatically increase those risks. Why? Because DNP raises body temperature. They have a lot more insulation around all their organs. Their organs heat up. Do you guys remember the story I linked to the guy who lost muscle and killed muscle in his legs and had to have the necrotic muscle cut out of his body, and he's got a chunk of muscle this big missing out of his calf for the rest of his life because of DNP? Because it overheats these things. What happens when you have 6 inches of fat over a bunch of muscle, 6 inches thick of blubber of insulation, and you use DNP? The risk of cooking muscles or cooking organs in your body, meaning high enough that the tissue is permanently destroyed, is going to go up exponentially with that cushioning. So this is a no-brainer. You do the gastric bypass if that's the only option you have. And as far as DNP, I don't think DNP should ever be an option. I would never consider it. People always say, you should do DNP. You lose 20 pounds of fat real quick. It's not worth dying for. I'm sorry, guys. I think using DNP is fucking insane. I think it's fucking insane. And I'm sorry, but I would never take those sort of risks just to lose a little bit of body fat, because that's what you're doing it for. It's not for fat people. It's for athletic people who want to lose 10 to 20 pounds of fat real quick. It's for guys who are 20% body fat and they don't want to do a real cut down to 10%. It's the guys who are 25% who don't want to do a real cut down to 15. They just want a quick, easy way to get there. And, it's okay. Not everyone wants to get lean. And I can't envision wanting to lose fat quickly, like having a desire to lose fat so quickly that I would take the sort of risk that a 1% chance of dying or a 1% chance of organ or brain damage from doing it is fucking stupid. It really is. It's fucking stupid. And again, guys, so those risks aren't that high. You just got to watch the dose. Well, you know what? How do you know that the dose you got was right? How do you know that they got the fillers perfect? You got to remember, the DNP you're buying is usually made in someone's bathtub and mixed in a big mixer. You don't know if they got the mix off 20%. You have no idea. And even if you've taken it before and got it tested and trusted, how do you know they got the next batch done right? It's not done under laboratory conditions. They could have 5 perfect batches in a row and be 20% off on the next one. Or 1/2 of the pills are 20% higher dose than the other half of the pills out of the same big batch because they didn't run the mixer thoroughly enough. I'm sorry, but DMP is just absolutely not worth it. And I know people are like, I can't believe you take that stance. I've used DMP, it's fine. So-and-so recommends it. I don't give a fuck. I won't advocate DMP. I think it's dangerous and I think it's stupid. And I can't envision anyone wanting to get lean bad enough to do that. Like, I don't even see getting lean as being that big of a deal. It's not even really that amazing of a goal. It really isn't. It's just not a worthwhile goal shouldn't be to most people who don't compete in something, and to take those sort of risks for it. The risk of just dying right there, or losing organs, or having to have muscles cut out like that guy did that I linked before. He'd have a muscle cut out of his body and was in the hospital. Was it worth it to him? I mean, did he want to get his abs faster? He wanted to shave 10 weeks off of his cut, so he lost a muscle this big around cut out of his body for the rest of his life. His leg's never going to work right again? Fucking stupid. It's fucking stupid. And that's just how I feel about it. Alright guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time in part 3.